Go ahead.
Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Well, welcome everybody. If you have your phones on, please put them on silent. It's Mr. Dove's time for the prayer.
Good morning. Thank you very much for being here today. Let's have a moment of silence in prayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Roll call. We're starting with Commissioner Dove.
Here.
Mr. Reed.
Here.
Mr. Culberson.
Here.
Mr. Stevens. Here. And Commissioner Mike Smith is here. Everybody's present. Next item is public comments. Anybody like to address the board? Please raise your hand, come forward. And I knew you would, so come on down. Go ahead. Okay. Let's over where you live. I know you said it before, and got 5 minutes. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm Kirsten Workman from Lansing. I appreciate the time to speak to you today. And before I begin, I just want to say thank you for the work that you do. I love watching this governing body. I love watching how you work together and how you solve these problems for our community, and I just really appreciate that. So wanted to say that. I'm not here to talk about the RHID, so breathe easy. I've already...
Thank you.
I know, right?
What'd you say?
I said I'm not, except, but one more thing.
Okay.
Please vote no on that, but you all know how I feel on that. I do want to talk about growth for our community because it is kind of related in that we talk a lot about needing more revenue to fund the county and take care of the things that we need to do. In order to get more revenue, I hear people say we need growth. In order to have growth, we need more people. In order to get more people to live here, we need to bring businesses. Businesses don't want to come because there's not enough people. People don't come because there's not any housing. We need more housing. In order to get more housing, I think we should get more people. So it's a circular line of thinking. I have the secret to more people. And not necessarily bringing them in, but just fostering the human capital the potential that we have right here in the county of Leavenworth, and that is through babies. And so it's kind of funny. I had to wing it today. I wrote my notes on a baby shower invitation that I have in my purse because I think it's important that women, as people build their families in our community, have access to affordable good prenatal care. And as you probably are aware, there's no place to have a baby in the city, in the county, I think. There's no place to have a baby. And that's a sign of a dying community. So while everybody works to fix that, the least we could do, I think, is to foster accessible prenatal care, which is available through the Public Health Department. However, recent changes, which I have no opinion on how the budgeting goes for that, but in the absence of Title X funding, my understanding is that good prenatal care through the health department might be at risk, and I just wanted to offer my support for that prenatal care to be funded through our county somehow. I don't have a lot of good input as to where you will find that money. It's not growing on the tree outside. I understand that. But I do have one suggestion, and that is I know that the Port Authority and the LCDC are also heavily invested in growing our community, and so I wonder if they might be willing to get on board with taking some of that funding that they have currently and maybe directing it instead of real estate investment into human capital investment through the funding of prenatal care through the health department. So that's my suggestion. I do volunteer at a pregnancy center. I have for years. And I also have permission to drop my friend's name, Patty, who I work with. She's also in support of the excellent work that the Public Health Department offers with regard to prenatal care. So I just wanted to pass that on, that we love to partner with health departments to help meet the needs of women in our community who need that accessible prenatal care. And that's all I have to say. Okay. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Does anyone else would like to address the governing body? If not, we'll move on to administrative business. I have a proclamation for Patriot Day I'd like to read. Whereas tomorrow we honor the brave Americans who met the terror of September 11th with extraordinary acts of courage and sacrifice in our darkest hour. When terrorists believed they could bring our country to its knees, those Americans proved that our nation's unbreakable spirit would prevail. Whereas in the moments, days, and years after the attacks on September 11, heroes were forged. Firefighters, police officers, and first responders ran into the inferno of jet fuel and debris at ground zero, risking their own lives to save the lives of others. Service members and civilians rushed into the Fury breach at the Pentagon again and again to rescue their colleagues. The patriotic passengers of Flight 93 made the ultimate sacrifice to prevent their plane from being used to take more innocent souls. And in big cities, rural towns, suburbs, and tribal communities, hundreds of thousands of Americans' hands went up, ready to serve our nation in uniform. We owe these patriots of the 9/11 generation a debt of gratitude that we can never fully repay. Whereas by joint resolution approved December 18, 2001, the Congress has designated September 11th of each year as Patriot Day in the Public Law 111-113, approved April 21st, 2009, the Congress has requested the observance of September 11 as annually recognized National Days of Service and Remembrance. Now, therefore, I, Mike Smith, as chairperson for the Leavenworth Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim September 11th, 2025 as Patriot Day and National Day of Service and Remembrance. I call upon all departments, agencies, and instrumentalities of the United States to display the flag of the United States at half-staff on Patriot Day and National Day of Service and Remembrance in honor of the individuals who lost their lives on September 11, 2001. In witness here, I've set my hand on the 10th day of September in the year of 2025. Okay, anybody have anything? This was a sad day for our country, but boy, did people come together after that happened and spoke up on that. Did anyone have anything to say on it? Okay.
I think someone should say something. I think Commissioner Culberson probably wants to say something. He never does. Anyway, I know that many of us can remember that day of where you were, what you were doing,
Absolutely. And
what happened after that day. Some of us dropped to our knees and thank God that those individuals who were on the planes realized the sacrifice that they were making for us. I myself was out having my walk, and when I returned home, I turned the television on and to see what happened. It was very heartbreaking. And some of us still feel that.
Yep.
So I would implore everyone within the sound of our voice, not my voice, but our voice, to take recognition of what has happened in this country and not take freedom for granted.
Very good. Thank you. Jeff, did you have something? Okay, Vanessa. Okay, Mike. Okay.
I just jog my memory. When 9/11 happened, I was sitting in the living room. My wife had gone to a Bible study, and we lived in Leavenworth at that time. And my daughter was watching Barney on TV. My daughter Ashley, and my mother called on the phone and said, "Do you have the TV on?" Well, we had the TV on Barney. So I changed the channel, and at that time they had hit the first tower. And soon after that, we realized we were being attacked. But I think everybody remembers where they were when 9/11 happened. Interestingly enough, there's a lot of young people now that weren't there when 9/11 happened. But I think we should never forget. And I do remember I still work for the railroad, and the next day I went to Ark City, and I remember seeing the firemen coming down with a great big American flag, and I had never seen our country having that kind of a unity like we had the day after or in the days following 9/11. And it would be nice to get back to that, where our country was united again, because we're not Democrats and we're not Republicans. We are Americans.
Well said, Mike. I think, Willie, you touched on it very well. I can remember it, too. I was getting ready to go to work for the city of Lansing, and I had the TV on, walking by it, and I said, "What is that?" And then they said that, and then a few minutes later, I think I got up to City Hall, and then there's another one. that went into it. And I tell you, every year, that just hits me hard. Sometimes I have to slow down when I read these proclamations, because for some reason, maybe it's because we're all Americans, it just tears me up inside to think of all the people that did their job trying to save those people in their tower, and they lost it. And I will never forget the pictures of people falling out of that building. It was just something that, and maybe I should never forget it. Maybe no one should, because that was a terrible day, and we got to try to make sure that never happens again. Anyway, I think we've talked on that enough. Everyone knows how we feel up here. Other administrative business. Mark, do you have anything before we get started around the table?
Yeah, Commissioners, I had emailed this to you yesterday, and I asked Mr. Weber to be here to kind of go over the details of it. But we received our mid-year ratio study from the state, the Kansas Department of Revenue, Property Valuation Division. And,
Yeah, I saw that.
It's basically the scorecard for our appraiser's office, so I asked Bob to come in and speak on that.
Morning. Morning.
We'll go easy on you, Bob.
All right, thanks. Is this working?
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
This is the first year, as I've gone over in the past, part of our compliance is what's called a sales ratio study. The state of Kansas takes the sales of all the properties. We value as of January 1. We send the change of values notices March 1st. They take all the sales from January 1st through December 31st and compare them to our values and do a statistical analysis. This is the mid-year report on that through the end of June for 2025. I think this is the first year they sent this to the commissioners. They always send it to us, but they are now sending it to the commissioners so they can have a heads up if anything's going wrong or if we're out of compliance in any way. So in compliance, we have this study makes up 50%. There's 100 points. This makes up 50 points. And procedural compliance, we have to submit all our studies that we do, and they have to check them over, make sure we do them right, we follow through with them. That's the other 50 points. Within this ratio study, they break up the 50 points between residential and commercial. They weight it by how much valuation you have, residential and commercial. So I think we were about 12%, 88% residential, 12% commercial. So that's the way the points will be broken out. So the lion's share of the points for this is on residential. So if you're not on residential, you're not going to be in compliance because you lose too many points there. Currently, through the mid-year, the median ratio is 93.71. We have from 90% to 110% is what we have to be in. The confidence interval, that's a 95% confidence interval, that median ratio is actually between 92.43 to 94.55. So that's a fairly tight confidence interval. They will not, so if that median ratio comes in at 88 or 89, but that confidence interval crosses over 90%, you will not be out of compliance. They really judge you by the confidence interval.
Right.
The tighter the confidence interval, the tighter the data is. And for the coefficient of dispersion, it's 9.24%. The standards are under 20%. For a county this size, IWL, International Association, Assessing Officers has a ratio study standard. It would be more like 15, but we're at 9.24%, so we're well within that. The PRD is called the price-related differential. A value over 1 means you're undervaluing more expensive homes and overvaluing less expensive homes, so you're regressive. 1.01 is within standards. And of course, a value under 1 would be the opposite. You would be progressive, overvalued. The natural tendency is to be regressive because you kind of start in the middle and you work out. Most of your data lies in the center, and you're working out. So sometimes it's kind of hard to reach to the top and reach to the bottom. They use 396 sales. The trim sales is they trim outliers for computing the coefficient of dispersion and price-related differential. They do not trim those for the median ratio because a median is not sensitive to outliers, where the others are using averages in the computation, and those are more sensitive to outliers. Commercial, we're at median ratio of 92.7. You can see that confidence interval, we only have 11 sales. That confidence interval is way wide. The data is not as tight. Our COD is 21.68. The confidence interval drops down to 7.1 on the bottom and 68.3. See the purity is we have a chance to appeal sales. Commercial, there's a lot more going on with the sales. There's 3 sales in there. They give us the sales with this. One we verified everything it was like an 8.4 million sale price, but there is about 2.5 million that they allocated to business, the business and personal property, which we only value the real estate. And so they're including, the state doesn't do that as much research on them, so we have a chance to appeal them. They also have the wrong appraised value on that one, too. They have appraised value vastly different than what we have on it. And then we have two other ones that one we're pretty sure we haven't been able to get a hold of. It was advertised as business, inventory, and equipment, and building, all being sold as one. And so we're trying to verify that and see if we can extract out what the real estate portion was of that. So the end results, when it gets down to the final ratio study, it may say a little different. But of course, there's another half a year coming on here, too.
Right.
So there'll be a few more sales. That's really all this is. You can look, the other ones, they do not judge us on compliance. We're at 84.71 on vacant lots. They don't compute a confidence interval. That's by and large all these rural lots that they're platting and subdividing. We're having trouble keeping up with them. They keep on going up. So we have been lagging a little bit behind on those. The other ones, all these other ones, farm, home, ag land, they have some ag portion to them where we're not valuing that at market value. So we're not going to be at market value on those. So the farm and home, it'll have a home site, a farm home and a home site, but the ag land will not be at market value. They're all sold together. So you can't really judge those by the ratios. It kind of tells you where you're at. That ag land only, we're at 0.68% of what they're selling for, but that's a lot of lots that they're being baled, they're being farmed across. We have to put them in agricultural use, rural lots, but then they'll sell them for home sites. 2.5 acres can go up, $150,000, but their ag use value will be about $500 or something. That's why that is so low. Any other questions?
Well, first of all, I would like to express my appreciation for all your work that you've done all these years since I've been on the commission, and we just reappointed you recently. You're a wonderful man, and you've done a lot of work, and you're doing the hard work, but people don't understand what you do. They don't understand the regulations you're following. So I just want to go over a couple of those. First of all, if we need extra valuations, you can't just go find those extra valuations in the county, correct?
That's correct.
We had actually a legislator stated that the county appraiser could find valuation. We don't find valuation. You have to follow the regulations that are promulgated by the Property Valuation Division of the Kansas Department of Revenue. That's the regulations you follow, correct?
That's correct. And appraisal principles, yes.
And it's not, we as county commissioners, we can't undo those, change those, modify those, or make any change to those regulations.
No, you cannot.
So that's the way values appraised across the state. It's supposed to be on an equal basis. It's not each county decides.
We are just, we're just trying to follow the valuation, what it has been doing.
And I think that's a confusion out there, that people think that the county appraiser is making these decisions, and you're not. You're simply following the rules, and you're establishing value per the law.
That's correct. We're following what the market conditions are saying, what the market is saying.
And every time you've come here, you've been within the ratios that the state requires. So therefore, you're doing a great job. I mean, I'll characterize that. You're doing a great job, and but you're doing a job that nobody likes because it involves taxes. So anyway, I do appreciate everything you do and your hard work across the hallway. But we do consider that you're representing the state. I have a separate question. Airbnbs in the county, how are they classified, taxed, and do you have a record of Airbnbs that are out in the county?
We don't have a record of all Airbnbs. We can go to the site and look at them, but they are by law. If you have 5 bedrooms or less, they are residential.
So then that's classification of.
That's classification law. Yes.
Okay.
If they're what now?
If they're 5 bedrooms or less,
5 bedrooms or less, okay.
they are
And
residential.
they're classified as residential. So, all right, very good. That's all I have.
Jeff, do you have any further?
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
Vanessa, go ahead.
Are they registered with cities or anything? Is there any additional tax involved, or?
I don't know if the cities have any additional tax. I can
Okay.
look at check with the cities. They haven't been. I mean, we've seen a few. We've got on the sites just to see, what this is or what we're looking at. But we don't. If it's just a house out there that's being used as Airbnb, we don't treat it any differently than any other house.
Okay.
So it's
Good to know.
not-
Thank you.
That's what we thought. Any other questions? Thank you, Bob. Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go around the horn now. We'll start with, if I haven't already, Commissioner Doug, did you have anything else?
Not today, Commissioner.
Commissioner Reed? Jeff?
No.
Mike?
I do have something I thought we would go over. I've been, you hear so many things about what is good and what's bad and what's happened, and people don't remember what's happened in the county over the last 5 years. So I wrote down just a few of the things we've done. I thought it'd be good to just go over some of the things that the commissioners have done, and some of them are specific to the 5th District, but we moved public comment up to where people come and they give their public comment at the beginning of the meeting. I think that's great. My district, a lot of times people had to drive 45 minutes, and then they had to sit through the whole meeting. I think this is a lot better the way we're doing it.
I agree.
We YouTube the commission meetings. All the meetings are recorded. And then we made a change. We now record all the work sessions, so you can watch the sausage being made, actually, and hear all the comments that are being made specific in the work sessions.
Yep.
We've had more roads paved in the past 5 years than the previous 30 years in Leavenworth County. Some of Eisenhower Road, 158th Street, 155th Street. We have County Road 30 and Tonganoxie Road projects are in various processes of being completed. Over $62 million worth of grants been written by the Public Works Department going directly to roads, bridges, and infrastructure. In the county, we increased the Public Works Department funding in each of the last 2 years by $1.2 million, placing additional funding towards roads, bridges, infrastructure in the county. We found that we were way, way, way behind on our infrastructure, and we've not caught up, but we've come a long ways towards catching up, and that's progress. We passed a pro-life proclamation. We funded the Sparrow Clinic. We passed the parental involvement policy. We've supported mental health task force and strong funding for mental health services through the Guidance Center and the Crisis Intervention, is it called a clinic there?
Crisis Stabilization Unit.
Crisis Stabilization Center at the Cushing Center supporting mental health. Strong efforts to reduce government spending hold the mill levy down. Even with the roof, the county mill levy is now only slightly, about 0.50 above where it was 5 years ago. And that's with us not bonding or taking any loans out for repair of this $5 million building. We're doing it in-house with our own funding. I think that's a huge win. SUP process streamlined, no longer requiring long-term SUPs to go through bureaucratic renewal every 5 or 10 years. Now, if there's no change in your SUP, you have a perpetual SUP, and you don't have to come back and go through the whole process. Tornado relief for outbiddings passed. The letter from the county commissioners all sent to the legislators and requesting that, and after 3 years, they did pass it. And we've approved numerous of those abatements. Yeah. Property tax task force, and this is in the 5th district. I know Jeff has attended one of them, maybe two. Focusing on the 3% cap, we also had a letter, 2 letters to the commission, to the legislators asking them to cap property taxes on the state level, which, just like we talked about the appraiser, he has to follow the state rules. We, as your commissioners, have to follow the state rules. And so if your property tax spikes 15% because of your valuation going up, we can't do anything about it. But in Topeka, they could. 26 states have a cap on valuation increases or taxes due to valuation increases. Kansas is not one of those, and we hope that will change. We supported. We wrote a letter supporting intermodal and Amtrak funding in Kansas. That was approved by the legislature, and now future rail projects in Kansas will be handled through the Kansas Department of Transportation. Process updated for consideration of large industrial commercial developments within the county. We require developers now to pay for the studies and all necessary documentation and paperwork, and we have greater transparencies as those projects progress. Economic development, $5 million for Tonganoxie Business Park, attracting Hills Pet Nutrition, which is $450 million investment in Leavenworth County, the largest private investment in the history of Leavenworth County. It's Unilock, DSM. The industrial park is almost full there. When I took office as commissioner, there was only Unilock. So huge progress in Tonganoxie. And kudos to the city manager and the leadership in Tonganoxie for all they've done to make that happen, and to the economic development folks, LCDC and Port Authority. Commission stood up for local communities, the landfill situation in Easton, testifying in Topeka, asking KDHE to enforce their own regulations. And we did eventually see that happen. Develop an approval of a new and updated comprehensive land use plan. Also implemented a policy to update the land use plan yearly by the Planning Commission and then approved by the commissioners. Develop a cross-access easement policy for private roads in rural subdivisions of the county. That was also developed. Stopped county involvement with an immigrant detention center by the county and supported the declaration of Leavenworth County as a non-sanctuary county. Countywide cleanup efforts at the Leavenworth State Lake, Sherman Township, and across District Number 5. We had a number of events where we had people meet and just do a cleanup. Also, on the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority, transit incentive safety development. I've been appointed to the task force on safety, and we're going to try to figure out, and one thing was stated is, if my mother or my grandmother wouldn't feel comfortable riding one of your buses, then there's something wrong with the buses. We got to figure out to make people feel safe to use public transportation. And also, the other part is extending public transportation into Leavenworth County is a goal. Approval of multiple agritourism SUPs and support for local efforts, including the Tonganoxie and Leavenworth farmers markets. Support for construction of a new industrial park and redirecting economic efforts towards that goal. Opposing COVID mandates. We did not support a mask mandate, and we did not support a vaccine mandate in Leavenworth County. Also, salaries for county employees have increased over 25% in the last 6 years. Great county staff, great county administrators, and public works directors and leaders of all our departments are the reason why this has happened, and our great elected officials in Leavenworth County. We also updated the land use tables in Leavenworth County. So these are just a few of the things. I think sometimes on social media, people don't remember all the efforts that are being done on their behalf in Leavenworth County, and this is only part of them. But this is some good things that we've done, and we're going to continue to try to work towards. Not perfect people, certainly not perfect. We make mistakes. We don't always do any issue. There's two sides. Not everybody's going to agree, but we are working diligently to serve the people of Leavenworth County, and we'd like to hear your input on any of these issues. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I don't have anything. We go to the Mark. That was all you had. The consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Commissioner Dove?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
I told the other way.
Aye. Okay. Hang in there. Okay, moving to formal board action. Presentation and discussion items, Monroe Manor RHID presentation. Come on down and welcome.
Thank you.
Good job, Jeff.
One job.
I'm assuming this is working okay? Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Sometimes you have to pull us a little close.
Okay, I'll pull it
just
up.
to make sure we can hear you.
Blow your ears out here.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Okay.
Old guys like me are deaf, so the closer you get, the better. So we're good. Stay have it, Mike. Okay, go right ahead.
All right. Roman Hahn from Circle H Land Development here to speak to you about the Monroe Manor RHID. A little ahead of schedule, as you may or may not know, it's going to be in front of the city on September 18th for a final approval there, and then after that, the next 30 days we'll be back in front of you. So we thought we'd come here and at least provide some general details and give you the opportunity to provide feedback and any questions that you may have ahead of time.
Is that the 18th or 19th?
18th, September 18th.
Thursday. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
For introduction purposes, again, I'm Roman Hahn. I'm the owner of Circle H Land Development. This is Dagan Hahn. He's my son, if you can imagine the last name here. We work together here at Circle H, and then of course David Waters as our attorney to help us with the legal side.
He looks like he's taller than you.
Yeah, I know. I think it's his chair. He's got his chair.
This is the chair.
But it's a good segue into. Actually, before I jump into that, I really do appreciate echoing Ms. Workman's comments on what you guys do, and you just mentioned a lot of the things that you're doing. I know that's not a comprehensive list, but a lot of work that goes on. This is just an hour or two of it that we get to see. I know there's a lot of other work that goes on behind the scenes here, so we appreciate the public service that you guys do, and I also wanted to point out I appreciate you taking the time to recognize the September 11th. I think it's important that we talk about it and share with the kids. He's one that you would reference that may not be old enough to understand the impact, and so I've made a conscious effort to try to educate them as it comes around every year on what it really was and what it meant to us. So thank you for bringing that up. So business at hand, Monroe Manor RHID. A little bit about us from Circle H, as I've already mentioned a little bit. We're a family company. We're not a large national land developer that's coming in. Small company. It's the two of us that work together. We created the company for the purposes of we wanted a family business and we wanted to work together. And I have a younger son that also contributes in different ways to the company as well. And hopefully, if we continue to make good decisions on our side, we can get more family involved. So it's a family business. We're a Kansas family. I was born and raised in Kansas, lived my entire life in Kansas, went to the University of Kansas. Don't hold it against me if there's any K-Staters, but thank you. But went to the University of Kansas and then lived in Texas for many years, but now live back in Lawrence. And all of my family, except one of my sons, is actually in Kansas. And so this is where I grew up and where I'm back to and where my family is. And so it's very important that we do the right things for Kansas and also that we represent ourselves well as a family business. And so I wanted to point that out just ahead of getting into all the financial side of things, which I'm certain that we want to spend as much time on as possible. A little bit more about the project. This is the project. It's on DeSoto Road. In between, it's an infill project, and I think if you look back at some of the studies that have been done, specifically the Lansing housing study, it was a key point that they brought up there that that those would be the preferred types of developments if single-family homes were brought to Lansing, which was the recommendation. This is the type of development they'd like to see. An infill, it's a less of an impact on public services, whether that be the services that the county provides or also even bus routes and schools and the Board of Education, and expanding their capabilities of being able to serve more students and more residents without exponentially more costs. And so it is an infill project. And with that, there are already some infrastructure in place, not on the property, but adjacent to the property because of some of those developments. And so we'll talk about what those look like and the infrastructure that we'll be providing as part of this development. And I'm assuming you've had an opportunity to look through this, so I won't read every slide to you, but this is what the development looks like. It's a 3-phased project, roughly about 60 to 65 homes per phase. The first phase is obviously in the very front on DeSoto Road there, as you see on your left as you look at this. That's a slide. That's where it starts. That's the entrance and the main entrance, but you can see that there's an entrance and exit from every side of the development to where it'll also provide infrastructure of roads and different paths for either people from the adjacent neighborhoods or the residents of this neighborhood have multiple options. And so it's not going to put a burden on any one particular road like DeSoto or Eisenhower that's further north there. Just some rough, obviously there's details associated with this, with every line item from every linear foot of conduit to every cubic yard of asphalt. It's all there, but I thought I'd summarize that and not burden you with all the details. But this is the summary of these, and the key thing out of this to look at is it's roughly a $11.6 million project. The RHID proposal is for roughly $3 million of that, which equates to the developer in the end of this RHID and the 6-year RHID that we're proposing. We would have put $11.6 million into this. As you can see, a significant part of that, very much part of the infrastructure. I heard you talking about continuing to build out the infrastructure in the county just prior to this. This will be a good opportunity to build out this infrastructure there at a very reduced rate for the county and the city as part of this RHID proposal. But a significant infrastructure from streets to the sanitary, working with Landell on expanding the capabilities of the water there as well. And so all of that will be part of this development project that we will fund, and then ultimately when the project's over, those are your assets, your infrastructure. The only part of the development that we'll retain are the green spaces and the open spaces. That is about 15% of the overall. Most of that is along the walking trail. So that was something that was a critical piece that we learned from some of these other public hearings, that the walking trail is a really important part of the community in Lansing, and it also connects the communities there as well. So we wanted to make sure that we allowed space. We're in discussions with the city with benches or parks. What do we want to do along that walkway to enhance it, even beyond what it currently is? And so all of that will be part of what we're contributing as to advance infrastructure and services and the trail and other things that become part of that. So this is kind of backdrop of where all the numbers came from. One of the things that you may be wondering is, There's been other RHIDs in front of you and others here over the past, let's say, few months. And I think one of the things you'll see here is we've just taken a fundamentally drastic different approach to this as opposed to long-term commitments from the county and cities as part of these RHIDs. We took a little bit of a different approach, and part of that was driven from the policy that was released, I believe it was April, from this team here on the guidance behind RHIDs. And so we own the land. We have a builder selected. These are all things that I'm referencing back to your policy. Is own the land. Are we committed? Is the developer committed to this project, whether it's financially or otherwise? And I think that we've proven that we are committed to this project. The term of it, the adverse effect that could be perceived as adverse effect of anything over 15 years, and so we're very cognizant of staying underneath that. And with the 6 years, we've stayed significantly under the 15-year recommendation. And lastly is these numbers came from the actual plans that are approved by the city. And so these aren't conceptual things that we think might happen. These are plans that are approved that our engineers have done the work and done the engineers' estimates and said literally down to how many linear feet of this that you need and that. And so these aren't estimations. These are numbers that are from the approved plans. And so we wanted to make sure that we were showing real numbers that could hold water and that were defendable by us and others. And so that's what you're seeing here are the numbers that resulted from having approved plans through the city with our engineers and actually speaking with contractors and getting the numbers so we make sure they're as accurate as possible.
Thank you for that.
I think we don't need to spend a lot of time here. I think everybody's aware that the RHID program is very much a bipartisan program. That was when it was originally launched in 1998 and then enhanced to be not rural, but in 2023 converted to a reinvestment program. Very much bipartisan. So as you were saying, it's not a conservatives versus liberal type of approach. It was supported on both sides of the aisle, even back to 1998 and as recent as 23. And I won't spend a lot of time here because I know it's not as relevant from a county perspective as it is in speaking with the city, but these are some the facts that come out of what the study said. And the study in general, without getting into all the specifics of the 75 pages that was part of that study, but this is what the study says in a nutshell. Yes, there is a need for single-family ownership. It's at 364 of those, or 560 rather, 560 houses is needed. Of those need to be single-family at 65%. Just simple math exercise to get down to that's 364. And then as you continue to move through that and just break it down of like, okay, what is the demographic of the individuals that will purchase these homes? Then you start to, you see the green circled area there. That is the area that the homes, the product that will be put in Monroe Manor, that is the segments that will serve. And you can see that those are the two largest segments as part of it. And so we think that we've got the right product in the right area based on the study here by this third party. And then lastly, just based on that, if they need 200 homes in those segments, we're providing 194 as part of this project. There's 194 total single-family homes that will be part of this. So we feel like that we've really addressed the needs of what the third party also said with regards to the needs of housing in Lansing. This is just another slice of the same data, but very much telling the same thing as we need conventional and small lot single-family homes, and this is the area that we're targeted here, and you can see that is the 60% of that other total, and so we feel like we're in the sweet spot of what the housing study has recommended with regards to the demographic of the individual that will purchase this home, but also the type of homes that they actually want there, and so we feel like we're addressing that with Monroe Manor. Just a general overview. We don't have to go through every point here. I think we've covered some of this already, but with the 194 homes added to the tax base here, it increases the market value of those by over $60 million. And so the tax base, and you can see the math in following slides here of how that goes to assess value and then what that contributes from a tax base perspective. I don't think that, I probably should share one thing here. Of the 6 years, the split of that through this period of the RHID for the 6 years, it'll be a split of 84.5% of the incremental tax revenue will go to Circle H, 14.5% will go to the governing body, the city and the county and the board USD 469. But all in all, once we're past that 6 years, it's a very good tax generator. We'll get into the details of what those are, but over $1 million a year generated across all three of those. All three combined, yes.
I've seen those numbers. Okay, thank you.
And I think this is a little hard for us to see on the screen, but I think this represents what we're showing here. There's the $3 million RHID. If you just go to the upper right there, you can see the requested $3 million for the RHID, how much of each of that $3 million, where it's coming from, and each of the years and how we get to that number. And so you can see from a Leavenworth perspective, it's about 966. The city's about $1 million, and then so it's almost a third across the three entities.
Yep.
As you look at this over the next 6 years. And then I think that's probably where we really want to spend some time, and I'll go wherever you guys want, on whatever slide you want, but I think this is probably what you really want to see and discuss and talk about. But you can see here that the 6 years, as we worked with the administrative staff here on what public services, the cost of those, how do we start to factor those in, and then measure those up against the incremental revenue that comes. And so you can see, we look at households and then making some assumptions on 2.5 people per household, then you start to put per capita cost of public services from the county. What does that cost? And put those in, and then as we start to look at cost, and then further to the right here, okay, what are some revenue sources that will come from these? And obviously there's the property tax piece, there's a motor vehicle side, and then there's a sales tax piece as well. And so we've captured those and working closely with the team at the end of the table here on making sure those are accurate and represent real numbers, so we can actually see real numbers here and talk about the facts. You can see some of the assumptions that were made there to the side. Those were assumptions that were given to us by the county and the team at the end of the table here, so we can make sure and get those numbers accurate. The takeaway is we get through the 6 years. The first year after that seventh year, you can see is you're immediately profitable by $118,000. And so that continues to grow as you work your way through the years. And I know that some of the recent ones you looked at were 20-year periods, and so I wanted to give you a view of, okay, if you looked out and you wanted to compare apples to apples, what would the 20-year view look like? Even though this is only a 6-year RHID, what would it look like? And you can see that there's a substantial amount of incremental revenue over the 20-year period.
I had a question.
Sure.
Sorry. As you stated before, we had a few RHIDs come before us, and all of them have been way higher than 7 years.
Yes.
What propelled you to not take advantage of that and bring it to where we hear as a 7-year RHID? It would be interesting for me personally to say, well, if I can get all I can get with 15 or 20 years, what propelled me to do it for 7?
Yeah, and so we started initially with the guidance from your policy that says absolutely, we view that anything over 15 will have an adverse effect, or could have an adverse effect on. So we knew that was the ceiling. Like we're not going to put anything on the table that's above that. And then it was about what do we actually need to make this a feasible project. And so it wasn't we're going to have you fund everything. We take a piece and say, okay, what's the infrastructure piece that we're actually what piece of the infrastructure are we actually going to need some help on, and it's getting specific on that. And so the reason why we're able to stay at 6 years versus some of the others that you may have seen is the scale of which the house building 40 homes a year is the assumption. So it allows that tax base to grow quickly. And second is we're only asking for a minimal amount of the overall project cost. And so we're not having to spread it out over a long period because it's a much smaller amount.
And it's mainly infrastructure.
Yeah, I thank you for that, because I would wonder if you get $1 million and you only say, well, I'm only going to settle for 300,000. What's the motivation? So thank you.
Thank you. I hope
Did you
that
say
answers your question.
all infrastructure, almost all infrastructure?
I'm sorry?
I thought he said,
Yeah, it's all for the infrastructure, streets, sewers, sidewalks, street lights, utilities.
Basically,
gas,
city improvements are being
water,
taken care
gas,
of at this
all-
level.
All of that.
Yeah.
Basically everything except the home.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Which the city needs anyway, so that's
Yeah.
one way to pay for it.
Yes.
Okay.
And then most of that infrastructure then, will be turned over to the city and will become public assets.
That's exactly what I was saying. Yeah, right, Dave.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Vanessa.
Thanks, Vanessa. Commissioner.
Thank you.
for that.
Okay.
Any other questions around the numbers or?
Go ahead, Mike.
I have a question for staff. Is it possible, feasible, or workable under the RHAD statute to have a development agreement that would reimburse the county for their portion of the local property taxes?
That is not anticipated in the RHID statute. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but the public policy behind the RHID statute is each of the communities would waive their taxes for that period, and it would be equally amongst all of the entities that are waiving it. So, not saying it's impossible, it just was not anticipated in the statute.
So what would so if you were going to develop such an approach, what would the logistics of that be, or how would you move forward on that?
Well, that would need to be something that would be presented to this body. It wouldn't be appropriate to come and try to do that after the fact. So that would be something that would be looked at prior to the developer going to the city. And then all the other entities would have to agree with that, when it came to their vote.
What the result would, and I don't know statutorily whether that's allowed or not, but the result would end up being is that this would no longer be a 6-year RHID. We'd be looking at the maximum of 25 years, and that would be on the school district and the city then. To make up for the same numbers, you'd be pushing all of that back onto the city and the school district itself.
So that would be an approach. I know that we've received some criticism that the county is, being the kingmaker and making these decisions. Well, if we just simply took the approach that you will have a development agreement and exempt the county's portion of the taxes, then the other two entities, the school district and the city, if they desire to exempt those taxes to that level, it would be on them. We would not have to be involved in making decisions. It's very difficult for us sitting here, and I'm sure you've watched the previous meetings, when we have to talk about so many. I don't even want to get into all the issues. I mean, it's fairness. It's what's fair to one developer, not another. We have to pick out which developer gets the incentive and which one doesn't. And if we have a line of 50 of these RHIDs, certainly you can understand it'd be very difficult for us to prove all 50, and what impact would that have on the underlying tax structure of the county. So if we could have a way to get the county out, that seems like a path forward.
Let me just wait 1 second, Dave. I don't agree with that at all. I think this is a partnership. I think a 6-year term. It's up to us to make the decision. Each RHID is different, and one reason they probably came in is because they've watched some of the meetings before, and I think 6 years is being very fair. But to eliminate one area and still they get the benefit with someone else paying, I just don't see how that could work. I like the way it's done right now. I would not direct staff to even look at that unless the commission wants me to go that direction.
If I may say so, I don't think that you do need to approve every RHID. I think your parameters have been set forth in your RHID policy. That was just adopted just a few months ago, and those provide the guidelines. And I provided the commission with a letter last night as well, and that's what we've really tried to do is make sure we were following the county's lead on what your expectations were, and not even just meet those, but come in ahead of what the county's expectations were.
Agree.
That's what we've really tried to do here.
Appreciate it. Vanessa, do you have something?
yeah, I think we need to be aware that we do have an RHID policy. it's not a no. It's not a document that just says no. I think we need to make sure that we're sending a message that we are a part of the community. If we're sending a message that the city and the school can make an investment in the future, but the county is only here to reap the benefits later on, I think that's just a weird message. So,
Willie, you have any comments on it?
No.
Okay, Jeff, you have any comments?
Nope.
Okay. Well, unless the county commissioners as a whole want direct staff to go that direction, I would suggest that we just not go that direction. So I need y'all to just tell me if that's what you feel or not.
Well, I guess I'll just make it clear. I'll make a motion that we have county staff study the legal requirements and ramifications of the county having a development agreement that would exempt the county's portion on these RHIDs.
Have a motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? If none, we'll start the roll call. Commissioner Dove?
No.
no.
Aye.
Aye.
No. It fails. Okay, let's move on.
Move on with this?
Yes,
or-
yeah.
Okay, all right. I did.
No, I can't keep them under control up here, so you need to go on, okay?
And so I think we've covered a majority of the points, but I think in closing, I would say that, of course, we've taken the feedback that's been provided to others and have taken that into account. And one of the things that I wanted to clearly point out, and I know that each of you understand the mechanisms of the RHID, but maybe sometimes it's hard for the public because they're not into the details of the policies, but this is not a pass the risk of a project off to the people of Leavenworth or Lansing. In no way. This is the developer, in this case Circle H, is going to put up $12 million for a project. If the project fails, the developer is out $12 million. The city, the Board of Education, and the county are out nothing. And so this is not passing risk from a developer to anyone. This is me assuming, or our company assuming, the entire risk up front. And then the only impact to any of the three entities, whether it be USD 469, the city, or the county, is positive. There will only be positive. There's no negative space for this to go because you have zero invested in this.
Right.
And so I just want to make that point clear that we are assuming the risk, all of it. And the upside is the incremental tax revenue that we'll generate for each of the three governing bodies. So I know we're ahead of the vote here, but I'm sorry.
I think what you just said, because that's been the main objection from my perspective, is that those incentives were being put onto the county in a way that our representation has to pay for your financial gain.
Right.
Which is really what it has come out to. And I personally thank you for not putting it that way, to whereas now it's your responsibility, which it has been in the past on developers coming in and doing these and building houses.
Right.
It's been their responsibility before, and I think it should be their responsibility after, because they are making a profit off of the housing development. So I thank you for that.
Thank you for that comment. I appreciate it.
Okay. Mike, go
A
ahead.
few little questions here. 194 units, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How many of those, as far as storm safety, can you kind of reflect on what the storm safety issues are for your development?
Sure. Yes, so 18% of these, this is the good thing about having an approved plan, is we can answer some of these, is the approved plan is 18% of the homes in this development will have basement capabilities, and much of that is driven by the topography of the land. Primarily, there's, as you know, that it goes up to a peak where the trail is, and so you've got to deal with the natural topography that's there. But it allows for about 18% of the homes, if chosen by the home buyer, they can have a basement.
Excuse me.
Where will the majority of the residents that you are projecting coming in to the project, will they be in county, out of county, or where are you projecting that they'll be coming from?
Well, I think I don't have a professional opinion on that. I only reference back to what the housing study says, and I think what they believe to be true, at least in the housing study, is that this would allow new residents to come into Lansing or Leavenworth County, not necessarily just shuffle individuals around within the same city or county.
Okay, and then if you did not receive the RHID, would you proceed with the project?
It would require some very, very difficult discussions with the home builder that we've selected, which actually is in Lansing, has an office in Lansing.
Yep.
So as the agreement between Circle H and the home builder, it would not go. We would have to make some revisions, which I'm not certain they would accept. What would be required? So that would be a detrimental to the deal. And I think you probably saw in the presentation some of the things that have driven this is things like being in the Northland here, where the rock is much more prevalent than what it is in other parts, even in Kansas City. A lot of rock that's there. We've done the geotech surveys and the traffic studies that are required for this, and there is rock there, so there's significant rock, there's significant timber, and the interest rates of, you're taking loans on all of this development, land, and also everything's just more expensive, and trades, all your tradesmen. And so those are the things that are contributing to the need of an RHID.
So I spoke to two bankers, and I mentioned this last week at the meeting, but I spoke to two bankers down in Basor, and their comment was, we have multiple subdivisions here in Basor that are developing, and we're not offering any kind of incentives. And that's within 5 or 10 miles of the location that we're talking about right now. Mm-hmm. So if we're talking about fairness, and we're talking about equity, and we're talking about these issues,
right?
Can you tell me, is there an objective reason for us to grant incentives at one location and not grant all of the builders incentives?
I think you need to evaluate each of the RHID proposals on its own merits, and not a general approach of does RHID good or bad for a community. It's one may be really good and another may be really bad, depending on the dynamics of that community, the demographics, and other contributing factors. But what I would say specifically to this one is this is an infill project here that should be developed to advance the homes that are needed, but it hasn't been. And so if this was actually developable land and it was a feasible project, it would have been done. The development just adjacent to one side was 1965.
Yep.
The development to the other was 2004. So there's been over 20 years that this property could have been developed, but people have chosen not to. They've chosen to go to Basor and Tonganoxie and other areas because of all of the reasons we've discussed.
That's based on the real estate market is driving the factor that they decided that at this location it doesn't pay us to build, but at this other location it does. So that's the free market dictating where this is going to be developed.
I would also add that, although it's all Leavenworth County, Basor and Lansing are somewhat apples and oranges in some situations. Basor is, further to the south with closer access to Kansas City and Johnson County, different highway access and all of that. I've not seen Basor's own housing study, but the one for Lansing indicates that there have been many years of stagnant growth in this part, and that's why some of these projects are needed in this part of the county. And just because it is all Leavenworth County, I think Basor and Lansing and Leavenworth are all completely different communities with completely different needs.
But what you're asking us to do as elected officials is pick the winners and losers. Who's going to get this incentive? Who's not going to get this incentive? And we're going to say, well, over here they should be exempted for property taxes for X number of years, but over in the southern part of the county or in the northern part of the county, that we're not going to give those incentives.
I think it would be more a recognition of that different areas of your county do have different needs. Some areas of your county have greatly aging infrastructure because they were built out long ago, and they have different needs than newer parts of the county that are more growing and have new infrastructure. They're just I think you'd have to look at your entire community and recognize that different areas do have different needs. Other parts of the county are more agricultural. Certain parts of the county are growing or manufacturing. All those different things, and all those things come together to create an entire community. But that doesn't mean that every city within your community is the same.
I'm not advocating we treat every city the same. All I'm saying is that when we're exempting property taxes, that potentially impacts everybody else's property taxes. And we have to be very careful about that. And this is a large number of houses involved in this. Once we start bringing residential subdivisions that are of great size, I understand it's a shorter term. I understand what you've done is reaching out the farthest you can go. I'm talking about the policy in general of the RHIDs. And I think we've got to be very cautious because we have a line of 50 of these that could come into play really quick.
Well, I think also, too, and I've said it before, I think all RHIDs need to be looked at. I don't see it as winners or losers. I see it as what's best for the county, whether it's in Tongi, Basehor, Lansing, my home, or Leavenworth, or up in Easton. What is the best for each one? We've got a policy in place, and maybe we'll need to tighten it up. But I also see somebody that's probably watched us on TV, this group, and saw where our problems were, and they came in with a 6-year opportunity to do that and put money back in the pocket. A lot of y'all know the late Mayor Bernard. He was my boss for something like 20-something years. He often said this to the council out there and to me when I was a city administrator and the police chief. If you don't grow, you die. Now, you have to pick the ones that you're going to see that you get the best benefit on. And from what I see here, unless there's something else coming out of there, this is probably the best one we've seen in front of us. So that's just my 2 cents on it. Is there anything else you'd like to say on this? Or Mayor, I see you out there. Would you like to address us at all?
I'll address.
Mayor Tony McNeil, thank you for coming out.
Tony McNeil, 131 Ida in Lansing. I say this to at least my ward reps, right? We have 4 wards. They all represent a certain amount of people, similar to you folks up here. But it's city first, right? So the big picture is the county, not your little piece of the county, not what happened in that county. If we want to go tit for tat, several of the cities were given $5 million or so to build business parks. We weren't. Right? So, I'm not going to say that's bad for the county, though, because it was good for the county. So there are some projects that are good for the city and will benefit the county in general. So going through and picking out which ones are in which cities and which ones developed, it doesn't make any sense to me. The transportation networks, which I think were mentioned, is a perfect example. We know up here in the north, we're kind of constrained. The Eastern Gateway project, Jeff, that you talked about, right? That's one of them that's trying to help this northern part of the county, right? So we have our own kind of restrictions in this area. This is just one way to help us grow. And if you look at the taxes, if you do the math, and I think your city administrator did the math, you're not losing much in those first 4 years at all in property taxes. And you're going to end up gaining close to $250,000 after year 6. Makes total common sense. I don't see the issue. And I'm hoping this commission will make the right decision on this.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
You say you don't see the issue.
Yeah.
We had multiple people from your community that have been in these meetings the last several weeks.
Not on this RHID, though.
Asking us to vote no.
Not on this RHID, though.
Asking on the issue of RHIDs, asking us to vote in opposition. So,
okay.
You can't say that there's not a legitimate issue here.
Well, if you
state taxes.
State the legitimate issue. What is the legitimate issue then?
That we're not
that the
exempting
state has.
We're not exempting all of the developers in the county. We're only exempting certain developers. You're having this body, this political body, making the decision.
You made a policy as a commission.
Excuse me, Commissioner. Excuse me for a second. I object to that comment of this political body. This is not a political body. This is a citizen body that were elected by the people to come here and do the work of Leavenworth County.
It was not meant or intended as an insult to the body, but we are elected. That's what I meant by political.
Well, I would prefer that we are elected body, not a political body.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
I retract political, and I will assert elected. But nevertheless, it is your government making the decision of who is going to get exempted from property taxes and who is not going to get exempted from property taxes. And the question that has been presented by the citizens is, how do we objectively decide what is fair?
And I think you did that in your policy, at least. You laid down the rules that all the cities are now trying to follow. If the developer doesn't follow that, even though we gave them guidance to follow it, then I totally understand. In fact, I had mentioned to Commissioner Reed that I was glad that you turned down the two. They didn't fit your policy. I talked to those developers and said, that's probably not going to fly at the county. I mean, they have a policy. Follow the policy. And then you can debate, the goodness of the project. But I mean, I have no issue with you voting down the last two because they didn't follow your policy, even though they're in my city. So I'm saying this one's following your policy, and I think it's going to bring new people to the county, which the county isn't growing very fast, and I think that's probably the best reason is we need more people in this county, and this is a great project to do that.
I had a developer's family member in Tonganoxie who was in development for 50 years come up to me at the cafe 2 weeks ago on Saturday, and she said to me, Mike, we were in development for 50 years, and we never got one dime of incentive. And this isn't fair. This is a boon for developers. Vote no. That was what she told me. So how would you respond to people that feel that way?
Well, I mean, the state is the one who came up with the program, right? So was a program in place when they were developing? I mean, so what you're saying is the state doesn't know what they're doing. I mean, they're the one who put out this incentive program to help grow the counties and the cities.
So I'm not going to sit here and defend the state.
Okay, well, I'm not either. I'm just saying it's a legal state program.
Okay,
thank you.
We beat this one. Thank you, Mayor.
I think I would just say
Go ahead, Vanessa.
That maybe we've been hearing different things from the people that have come and spoken, but the main underlying thing that I've heard over and over is property tax, the property tax burden.
Yep.
So this is going to be a generator, a plus to that. It's literally an answer to the people that have come.
Commissioner, you know that there's two sides to that debate, so we're not going to go down there right now.
Okay, we got any more discussions for the folks out in front of us? If not, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Okay,
A month and a half.
next item is, Jeff, we need an executive for an hour.
You need an hour?
An hour.
Commissioners, because we do have the department here.
Oh, you want to go ahead and do Jamie first?
Can we
Okay,
do
I'm
that
sorry.
first? I would just ask,
He doesn't
so
wanna
he
sit
doesn't
for an
have
hour.
to sit for an hour, and if
Well,
anybody
he's
else
getting
is
paid for that.
interested in
Jamie?
the conversation. Just
You want to sit for an hour?
Jamie, we got you up next. Come on. Don't look like we forgot you just because I did.
Got you were sitting there.
Welcome, Jamie. Jeff, I think we need an hour.
Morning, Commissioners. Okay. We're going to let Jamie go first there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going there. Morning.
Good morning.
As you're aware, we have been notified for the Title X funding program from the state that that has been removed. So we're back in front of you today in regards to the family planning program and the services provided out of the health department and what that means moving forward. It's approximately a $73,000 grant in funding. I think we anticipated the potential of losing that funding with the policy that was approved through the board and that we have been following since. So I'm in front of the board basically to discuss that and to answer questions moving forward on how we can move forward with those services and programs minus that funding.
I do have a comment before we start. I haven't got it completed, but I have spoken with Senator Klemp about it. Asking for an attorney general's opinion down in the Fifth Circuit. Federal court had a case called Deanda versus Becerra, and they actually, well, long and short of it is that the state of Texas has a parental regulation similar to our policy, and the court allowed Texas to go ahead and receive Title X funds, and they are receiving Title X funds. So this attorney general opinion would be asking the attorney general whether Kansas should also be fit into that, or whether there's potential litigation that could be brought by the attorney general's office for our Title X funding back. But this is a consequence because currently their regulations do not allow for parents to be notified, and of course we all believe parents should be notified. So just letting you know, I am formulating that letter, and it can either come for Senator Klemp or all 5 commissioners can sign requesting it either way.
Well, I'd like to see it come for us, take a look at it.
Okay.
I think that'd be the appropriate way to do it, Mike.
I think so.
Okay with that?
Yes. Yep.
Right. I'll work with Misty to get it written up just right, and we'll bring it before the board.
Misty, you have anything to add to this?
Well, I think you've addressed some of it. There was a question of, is the board in support of asking for an attorney general's opinion as to whether or not, I'm not certain if it's whether the state or the county should litigate this issue to ask for Title X funding, or if we're asking for amendment to have a state parental involvement policy. So it sounds like the board would like to get some clarity from the attorney general. Is there an opinion on whether we are wanting?
That's what I thought I heard, unless somebody heard something different. Is that what you said, Mike?
Yeah. And I can work with you writing the language.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think an attorney general opinion would be helpful because the issue that happened in Texas is completely different than what we have here today. And so then another question that I would have on August 15th, we received notification from the state regarding that our Title X funding would be pulled, which, I think we were I had advised of that because we had adopted a policy that is contrary to the provisions in Title X for the funding. So does this board want me to file some sort of an administrative appeal? I don't know that. I'm not going to opine on anything that's going to waive our attorney-client privilege right here, but do you want me to file an administrative appeal with the state for the funding?
And that could possibly preserve our funding. Yeah.
I know. What do you think, Misty? I don't know one with the chicken for the egg. I want to make sure we're guiding this correct, because I think Mike makes a good point on trying to take a look at that. What do you think?
If we want to preserve the issue, then I need to file the appeal. I'm not going to opine on our chance of success.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Rich, you have something?
Oh, I was just going to ask a question.
Go ahead, Vanessa.
Do you have a sonogram machine? When was that purchased?
1802.
1802. They weren't all around then.
See, he's thinking back now, Mike.
5 or 6 months ago.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
And how much was it?
3,000, 5,000, somewhere in that range.
3,000 to 5,000.
The handheld, it goes to a small little, and I apologize, not sonography, ultrasound.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Have we covered everything that we can on that?
For me, yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's the direction I need. I think Jamie.
Jamie, do you have anything else on this as we're going that direction? Mark, did you have anything?
Commissioners, I think I asked Jamie to come in after he expressed some of the concerns to me. Hopefully, we can get some resolution through the state or through the judicial system. However, since we don't know what that is, it kind of leaves his position in limbo and his funding. Between now and the end of the year, we can probably cover it, but it won't be covered out of his department because he doesn't have that revenue, and the health department is a very small department. We would have to probably shore him up at the end of the year, so I want, before we get to the end of the year and I come in and ask you for money, I'd rather ask now before we spend the money. So does the board support continuing to offer those services at least through the end of the year with funding that would have to come from the general fund to shore that up? And it's not a lot right now because we're so close to the end of the year. But then the second question is while we're waiting for this to play out at the federal level or state level, what does 2026 look like? Because this is basically a staff position that was funded by this, and so we don't want to just drop the services without the board giving direction, but we don't want to continue to spend money that we don't actually have the budget for without some direction.
I guess the question I have is who needs these services? You know, we have government health insurance, we have private health insurance, so who are the individuals that can't get these services otherwise?
Commissioner, there's a lot of underinsured or no insurance individuals out there that seek. I did pull the numbers. It's just shy of about 400 individuals that we're affecting that come in for preventative care.
A year or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Per year.
Thank you.
So could we, go ahead and shore up the funding to the end of the year, but after that, kind of develop a plan to where we'd have like a more streamlined, we'd still offer the services, but maybe in a more streamlined manner going forward?
Well, that's something Jamie and I have been talking about. How do we provide these services? Let's say we lose the funding, we don't replace it at the county level. What does that look like for the services being offered? And it would impact. I don't think there's a way to streamline it. There's not saying we couldn't continue to do it, but it might delay some of the other services too. And that's why we would just want to talk to the board first, because you'll likely hear the complaints when that starts happening. So before we took those decisions, we wanted to talk to the board about that. Shoring it up to the end of the year is not a problem, I don't think. I just need you to know that come the end of the year, I'm probably going to bring in a budget amendment in December to transfer some money into his fund to make that work. But I'm more concerned about 2026 than the rest of 2025.
So what would be the effect if we make those changes, but then we then eventually are reimbursed and they make a decision to fund it? It would be great to back those funds out.
Yeah. Well, they would go into the general fund as a reimbursement if the general fund's the one paying it. So,
okay, sort of like when we get FEMA money or that kind of.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not, because it takes 3 to 4 years for FEMA.
FEMA.
Okay.
Watch what you
well, sorry about FEMA money. Sorry.
Watch.
Yeah. We'll all be gone by then. Okay.
So, can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure, Vanessa.
So those 400 individuals are not on government insurance?
Not all of them. I'm saying there's a large portion of the individuals that come to us are uninsured or no insurance. There are some that have insurance that still come to us. We bill insurance, and that's part of some of our revenue and reimbursements that come as our user fees. But it's, again, the county has a limited amount of resources of OBGYNs. We know that in our healthcare system within Leavenworth County. Yeah. This allows them to gain access into the KU system because they're being seen by the KU physicians and such. So it's kind of that offset clinic out of KU as well that they're being seen through this program, and then they're able to If they want early pregnancy, prenatal care, they move through that process, and then they end up with the KU system and be able to have deliveries and such down at KU as well through our MCH program. So they're all kind of webbed together on how we do things through these programs. And again, the access to the healthcare and keeping people in our community, we are that safety net clinic when they can't get into an OBGYN that is accepting them here with new clients in Leavenworth County. We are that ability. Transportation is a big deal. Even if they have insurance or state, they may not have transportation. They can get at least to the health department because it's still within Leavenworth County.
If you could get me that number of the ones that do not have government insurance out of that 400, I appreciate it.
We already bill insurance. Is that what you said? So the people who do have insurance, we do already bill them.
Okay.
Yeah, because that would be an opportunity if we're trying to make some modifications, if we can get more out of their insurance, that would be an opportunity. Thank you for all your work. I know that this has been kind of a change, and you've maneuvered it really well. Thank you.
Mark, do you have anything on that? Add?
Just looking for a little direction. Shore it up till the end of the year,
Yeah.
and then revisit it
That would be
depending
mine,
upon
too.
what we hear from the state. Is that
What's everybody feel? Jeff, Mike,
Yes.
Willie, Vanessa?
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Very good. Thank
We'll
you.
revisit this in December, but you and I will be talking about it between.
Okay. Now, Jeff.
You're on, Jeff.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board recess for closed executive meeting to allow the commission to discuss the annual evaluation of the county administrator, which is a personnel matter related to a specific non-elected employee in order to protect the privacy interests of the individuals discussed as per the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and that the board resume open meeting at 11:25.
Jeff, before we get a second, sir, did I miss you? Did you want to say something? Did you?
Public comment. Did you want to say public comment?
I missed public comment.
Yeah,
You can do
go
it.
ahead. I want to get you in there before we get an hour going.
We don't want to take an hour.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
And this is serious stuff. It's about mowing the culverts in our subdivision. I'm a new resident of Leavenworth County, and we moved over to Prairie View Road in
Welcome.
182nd. And I've made 5 requests of the Public Works Department to try to mow our culvert. And the culvert is so deep that I can't find anybody that'll mow it for me. It's so deep. And I even got a hold of Bill Knoll, and he said that he'd look into it. Well, that was a month ago, and evidently he's still looking. But this is the first house that everybody sees in the subdivision, so it sets a standard of what the subdivision is going to look like. And the homeowners association have been hounding me to death to get it mowed, and I said, that's not my right of way. I mean, that's a deep culvert that needs to be mowed by the county. Well, the county did come out and start mowing, but they went from 170th and headed south and missed our whole subdivision. So I've made this. This is the 4th request I've made, starting at the beginning of summer, and they refused to mow or salt culverts, and it's now waist high.
Okay.
I mean,
Let me-
it's
let me-
ugly.
let me-
It's making our subdivision.
Mark, would you look into that, Mark, for us?
Commissioners, first I'd like to say that it's not our policy to mow the ditches completely. I think the commission here probably knows that.
I can't hear you. Excuse me.
So it's not our policy to mow the entire ditch, the entire right-of-way. Homeowners are responsible to the road. We do try to mow back at least 2 swipes to keep the weeds back from the edge of the road. But what we've talked about in the past is funding realistic expectations. So we try to get through the entire county twice a year to mow the edges of the right-of-way. Down at the bottom of the ditch, I do not doubt that it's steep and it's difficult to get to. However, we do not typically do that throughout the entire county. We come through and try to identify where trees are growing up so we can knock those down, but we just don't mow the entire right-of-way. It doesn't happen.
I think what I'm looking for more for an answer to him, to let him know. one way
Bill and I have talked about this specific one yesterday. I think Bill came up and told me that this was a concern. But again, we don't mow the entire right-of-way anywhere in the
Right-of-way
county.
is not 60 feet. As I recall,
From
I
the
think
center
Phil
line.
Knoll told me it's about 60 feet.
Probably right, from the center line.
Which would take us into that culvert, but I mean, we can't have trees grow. It really makes, it's an eyesore for the whole subdivision.
So are you saying that it's his responsibility?
I'm saying that would be the homeowner's responsibility.
Okay, that's their position.
Throughout the county.
It's not the county's responsibility, it's your
To
personal
maintain
responsibility.
their right-of-way.
Well, to maintain that portion of it.
Yeah, we just don't have the staff, the resources to
But
do it.
you
We have 1,000 miles of
The
roads.
thing is, we can't hire somebody with that kind of a mower to do this, because it's so deep. It's a deep culvert, and it would take one of your telescopic mowers to do it, and it'd be very simple. They've been, and they haven't even done the roadway, by the way. They haven't mowed at all in the last 2 months.
Are there private?
I don't know that, Commissioner, but I can tell you that twice a year they try to get out and mow the edges of the right of way. We mow back the corners for safety reasons,
Look it up.
and that's really it. And I think last year this was an issue, and I'll tell you it's probably an issue every year. But we have one of our mowers is broken down right now, so we're behind on mowing. Those same crews also go out and work when we're doing the dust abatement projects. So, all those things add up. It's just the realistic expectations that we talk about. I wish that we had the resources to do that, but we simply do not have the resources.
So we're just being honest with you that it's probably not going to happen from the county. Just being honest with you, and that's the thing you want.
It's strange to me that you're reaping probably $1.5 million in tax revenues from our subdivision, and we don't have $200 to mow the culvert to begin to give us a good presentation to the area. I mean, that's strange to me that you're not responsible for right-of-ways.
Okay. I appreciate your comments, sir. Thank
All
you.
right, well, thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Jeff, you want to take the lead again? I move that the board recess for a closed executive meeting to allow the commission to discuss the annual evaluation of the county administrator, which is a personnel matter related to a specific non-elected employee in order to protect the privacy interests of the individuals discussed as per the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and that the board resume open meeting at 11:35 a.m. in the meeting room of the board. President and executive meeting will be Commissioners Smith, Culberson, Reed, Dove, Stephen, and staff designated by the commission to be present to participate in the discussion. Second. Motion second. Discussion? Nope. Commissioner Dove?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Record for record show the board has returned to regular session at 11:35 a.m. No action was taken and no decisions were made. The subject was limited to matters related to the specific non-elected personnel. Very good. Okay, the next thing is we go around one more time. Commissioner Dove, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Commissioner Reed? Bring that microphone down.
So, I don't want to say her last name poorly, but I think it's Irina Zarutska, was stabbed to death on a Charlotte light rail. And I would just
I'm
be.
sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, there was a young female, Irina Zarutska. I think I might not be saying that appropriately, but she was stabbed to death on a Charlotte light rail.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering if the transportation system is going to maybe talk about that. But you were talking about
That it's amazing that you brought that up because I have that right here. Safety Committee, KCATA, to talk about that.
Perfect.
So I can talk about it whenever.
Thank you.
You mean you two on the same sheet?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Vanessa,
Right here,
anything
Vanessa
else?
Reed.
Jeff, you have anything? Well, let Mike have this too. Go
Okay,
ahead,
so
Mike.
I got appointed about a month ago to the KCATA Safety Committee because at the meeting last month we were talking about what can we do to improve the bus service, and one thing that's being discussed is bringing the route that stops at the Legends, routing it up Highway 7, and having the terminus be the Fort. So that's under discussion, but that would involve some funding. So we'll have to, whenever it involves funding, it's a big deal.
I know it.
But so that's being talked about. But then the next issue that was talked about was the fact that, and I brought this up and said, I want the buses to be safe enough for my mother or my wife to ride the bus. And I told them, I talked to my wife, Susan, which I judge a lot of things. So, they say, talk to Pete, how does it play in Peoria? Well, I said, well, how does it play with Susan?
Well, she's definitely a better go ahead.
So if she doesn't feel comfortable riding the bus, and my grandma or my mother wouldn't feel comfortable riding the bus, how can I expect people to feel comfortable riding the bus? And so the safety, one thing we're going to do is we're going to go ride the network. We're going to, and you're welcome to come with me, Commissioner Reed, if you would like. We'll take a day and a lunch.
I'll arm you.
Go ride the network. But just to ask people questions about what they think would make the system safer. I appreciate that there's a homeless issue in Kansas City. It is a very important issue, and there's a mental health issue in Kansas City. But the transit authority cannot solve that. The transit authority can't solve the mental health issue in Kansas City, and the transit authority cannot solve the homelessness issue in Kansas City. So therefore, they're not going to be able to be living on the buses. So there's a lot of issues related to safety, but man, that was a tragedy.
Yeah.
That was so awful.
Yeah. Well, you're right.
And yes, so I hope we can go riding together. All right.
It was terrible. That is.
Let me know what happens. I'd like to ride that bus. I haven't rode the bus in years.
I'm not going to ride.
Well, we want people to ride the bus. And we talk about tying Kansas City into tying Leavenworth into the Kansas City Metro. If we got the bus, have the terminal be Fort Leavenworth, you could ride a bus in, go to work at the Legends. They're talking about, there's a frequency right now is every 30 minutes. Just preliminary talk was that instead of every 30 minutes, it would be on the hour the bus would then come on up to Leavenworth.
Jeff might remember this, though. We got approached, and Mark, you might have, years ago we approached, and Mike, you were absolutely right, it was funding. And the sites that we put at, and I think it just dropped, didn't it, Mark? It just went away by itself?
When Nancy Bowder was on the...
Yeah, Commissioner, that did come up. It was about funding, and then actually I think Leavenworth was looking at doing their study, and then from that became the LV transportation.
Right.
So, but I know they would like to tie that into somehow into the KCATA routes.
When Leavenworth County had more rail than any other county in the state of Kansas, I think it was called Kansas City Southern, had a narrow gauge train that ran from Fort Leavenworth to Wyandotte twice a day, every day.
Yep.
It's funny
And that's another
things go back around.
And they say the KCATA is a really neat bi-state pact. I don't know if people understand that it was approved by both legislatures and the federal government to establish this KCATA. So it's kind of like the Port Authority. It's a rare thing, but it's really
That's cool.
has a neat history, but we haven't utilized it the way we should. And the possibilities are endless. They can actually be involved in light rail, or it's just a matter of funding, and also the fact that people in Leavenworth aren't getting any benefit out of it right now.
We got the perfect person repping this up there for us, Mr. Quiet. So I know you're going to keep us directed on that, going the right. But what Mike says is true. We should be coming this way. You really should.
But I appreciate, we want to make it safe, and I appreciate if we can work together. Commissioner Reed and I can work together, and I know she feels that way too.
Mike, I appreciate you sitting on that. You have anything else on the board?
I do not.
Okay, I don't have anything. A motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion second. Mr. Bev?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are done. Good meeting, folks.
Thanks.
Thank you.